What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for June 26th, 2023. CIG is running events again. Are they actually listening to our feedback? ISC had almost an overload in mission updates, and your ship is now Space Florida. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, every day but Monday, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And a lot of you guys have been stopping by, which means many of you may not want everyone to know about how much time you're spending on internet spaceships, which leads up to today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN gives you the power to not only protect your online privacy and control your personal data, but also unlock exclusive benefits for gaming, like protecting that data while making incredibly important and totally viable fleet purchases. And because my audience is so international, sometimes we struggle to play in games that have region locks, and a VPN like Surfshark can help us get into the same server and play games together, which is what I love about cooperative games. Protecting our Star Citizen fleet should be a #1 priority, as well as browsing privately, knowing when there's been a data breach, and knowing when you have to change your account's passwords to keep your fleets out of prying hands. And Surfshark VPN does all of that for you. A big benefit to its competitors is you can use Surfshark VPN on an unlimited number of devices, from your PC all the way down to your PlayStation, and they have 24/7 support. With that said, if you get a 24-month plan and use my promo code SaltEMike, you'll get 3 months free. Also, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's almost no risk to try it out. What are you waiting for? I hope it's not for Star Citizen to come out. So with that, let's check out what's going on with this week's patch notes and that 3.19.1 going live. So we covered most of the 3.19.1 notes last week. I want to do something a little bit different this week, but before I do, last week's video did super well, and I just want to thank you guys for the support on that one. Make sure you guys leave a like on this video and try to help it do just as well as the last one. That video was huge. Thank you so much. But again, I want to do something a little bit different, and that is talk about Jumptown. So this weekend, by the time you're watching this video, as you can see the schedule on the screen, you've missed Jumptown. But a lot of, and what I want to talk about is the community sentiment around them running this event. A lot of people were saying, oh my God, I can't believe they're running the event. It's going to ruin the servers, so on and so forth. Jumptown is not Siege. It's not Xenothreat, right? So a lot of the problems with those events are AI and mission logic and things that cause the servers to implode. Jumptown doesn't really do that. It's much lighter, and you know, the question that I posed in the intro is, are they listening to our feedback? I think absolutely they are, because we're not really going to talk about it when we go over inside Star Citizen, but they did address the fact that they were planning on running Siege and they didn't. And I think this is the reason why, is the server performance. But considering server performance, Evo Invites went out, and I don't usually cover things like this, but so many people messaged me and DM'd me because they know that I'm an Evo and they didn't know if these invites were legitimate. It came from some weird Adobe email. It was super, super weird. So if you did get an invite from that, it was legitimate. And I think what rumblings out there are that they're trying a bigger server, maybe double what we have now. I don't know what's true and what's not, but we'll see. I think the servers are actually going to burn if they do something like that. So that is going to be really interesting. And here's the deal. If it works out, it's going to be huge for Star Citizen 3.19, 3.20, and so on, because I think the more players you interact with, the more fun the game is. So as long as the performance is decent, I'm all for it, because I think we get a better game out of it. For video updates this week, we only have one. They had to cancel Star Citizen Live, so we had Inside Star Citizen with the mission feature team, and they jumped right into a brand new salvage mission type called Cover Up.
So we added the Cover Up missions.
It's an unlawful mission, and the idea is that Ninetales have committed a crime and want you to cover their tracks.
We know security is going to investigate the crime scene, So you're being hired to scrap all the identifiable markings and paint, and you have a certain time limit.
It's the first mission really to have fail timer. So if you don't take the skin off of this ship in time, the police will turn up, instantly clock it and say, you know, this is Ninetales and you'll have failed your job.
You fail the mission, you don't get paid, you have nothing to show for it. However, if you do successfully manage to completely wipe the ship clean, then you get paid because you rendered them service, which is also going to tie in with reputation, which the current contracts don't implement yet.
All right, there's quite a bit to unravel there, and let's start out with the fact that you don't get paid unless you complete the mission. The current salvage missions are very different than that, and I think that that's going to be a good thing because you could tie reputation into it. But as you could see, 25K was the initial payout, not that good. I mean, that's what, 4 salvage boxes, basically. I mean, 3+ salvage boxes, right? So it's not really worth it, but then it's plus bonuses. They never really done a good job of explaining what bonuses are. Are bonuses the boxes that you get from the mission, the RMC, or is it the cargo boxes, or is it looting, or is it something entirely different? Like, what does that mean? We need to know more, and I want to hear more about it. Then they go a little bit more into reputation, and you know that means a lot to me.
Currently, salvage missions don't have reputation tied into them. You just buy the contract and you're done. But this is going to start our work towards having more reputation scopes. You're actually going to have rewards coming in with finishing these missions. There's actually going to be a reason for doing these in the long run.
Raise your hand if you've heard them say that before, right? So, like, you know me, I get excited for something when it's on my computer. I can't really go for the hey, we're planning on doing reputation, this is going to unlock those things. If they do, I'm very excited for this. I really, now that the mission feature team does have reputation, they are talking about it a lot more. I'm more interested in this than I am normally, but I am going to remain cautiously optimistic until we get more details on this, right? We need to see more. Then they explain what happened to the Siege Islands and what's going to happen to them next.
The intent was to run Siege for 319, but unfortunately we weren't able to hit that. We ended up in a very awkward position where we had disabled the ability to have the current missions that went out on those islands in 318 available in 319, and we also didn't have the other islands placed. So we just had to turn those missions off completely until we get these new floating islands. So we made the decision to add more islands all around Crusader. It allowed us more freedom, like we can tell different stories.
I am so happy they did not run Siege in 319. Performance and why or why not they're doing things is really kind of the theme of today's show. Now, again, Orison needs a lot more. If you look at every other planet, Orison is lacking more than any of them. We don't have any resource distribution platforms. We don't have any extraction. We can be extracting gas from the planet, something like that, right? We're not getting any of that on Orison. So them building out anything is cool. I hope they're not like these hotel-like platforms that we have now. I hope we start getting more industrial side things, but to each their own. Then they go over a mission I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time at.
You'll be tasked with going to the UGF to retrieve a mission-critical item.
There's several NPCs walking around, either security guards or other NPCs, and several of them will be carrying data pads with a code on them.
By taking the tablets on them, players can see these codes.
You will have to sift through multiple codes to find that item.
Think of it as an Amazon locker where you have a code for your delivery. So you have to look on the tablet, which code hold which set of items. You go to a terminal, enter the code, and then it starts spitting out these objects one by one.
And, scanning through the data pad and you're finding whether it's got the mission critical items that you're looking for, or maybe just some really valuable items for things like Haddonite and Dolovi and things like that you usually only find in like one-handed carryables we're adding into boxes. So that's a nice little bonus there you'll be able to find.
I love this type of mission at SPK, but you got to remember, these are extremely PvP type things that you can do in Star Citizen. This mission is not that, right? This allows a solo player or a group of players that maybe aren't interested in doing any PvP to interact with this type of consignment mission, right? So that's a really good thing, and I think that they're really rounding everything out there, and that's great. But they haven't touched on what really excites me about the mission.
So the reputation ladder is going to be tied to these missions. A lot of players care about the reputation ladder themselves and completing that process, but as an extra incentive to climb it, they will unlock the harder tiers of this mission. And in the process of doing so, there will be more data pads that can drop across the mission. It will be more difficult to stay at the location, the more data pads you want to retrieve, and you can sift your way through the mission critical items and the extra items of the things you want, load them up, get them out of the UGF onto your ship and away. So it's going to be all about how much players want to go for the extra bonus loot, whether it's worth the risk of staying if they are low on ammo or are being overwhelmed, or if they have enough friends to bring to them to the location, which versions of the mission that they do. So I think it's going to be really interesting, and it gives players the opportunity to do missions at their own pace and, remain at the location as long as possible as the risk increases.
I personally think the current rep ladder is really boring, and this excites me a lot that it creates a challenge. As long as the AI are working, it creates a really cool challenge of something that, how long can I last here? How long can I survive? How much loot can I get out? All those things. I think that's really good. And then the next thing that they discuss is really impactful to Star Citizen. Really impactful.
Since the inception of the loss system, we've had the issue where if someone trespassed on your ship, you would first be given away by the chat system saying that you joined the ship.
Gives your position away straight away. I've always disliked that notification, so that you'll only see that notification if you are a member of a party of the owner whose ship you're going aboard.
I think this has its good and bad situations, right? I think it's going to unlock much more people trying to join your ship and do some unlawful things, but I think it's also preventing all the stupid things that would happen to you when you defended your own ship, right? So I think for a short time it's going to be pretty ridiculous, but in the long term it's going to be a lot better for the game. I think obviously we need things like maybe ship radar, or more importantly with engineering, right? To be able to lock doors and lock people in and out of certain areas based on whether or not they have access, right? Things like that. I think we'll be able to do a lot more in our ships, and then this decision makes a lot more sense when we get a lot more functionality. That's usually how it goes. But the next mission that they talked about was really vague, and this is the last mission. We've gone over a lot, I understand, but this one was really vague but really interesting.
One of the things farther ahead that we're working on is barge heist. It's basically taking what we know to be popular and fun in this game, so something like Jump Town, but we're making it have a finite resource and a much more interesting location.
What we're doing is allowing players to buy in information similar to how some of the salvage contracts work.
It's the barge that we use in Siege of Horizon, heavily modified, so there'll be lots of entrances and exits. What's great about using the barge is that we can put it anywhere on Crusader, far away from the landing zones and anything that, may cause performance to dip.
First off, I want one of these barges, right? Like, this thing is awesome, but I don't know what to think about these, right? I think the main thing that I'm thinking here is we're kind of getting the drug lab situation that we had when the servers were much smaller, where we're spreading out these competitive PvP areas where we're fighting over resources really thin given the amount of players in a server. So, I don't really know how to feel about this. I think that they're setting up for the future Star Citizen where the current can't really support these in a meaningful way. I mean, Ghost Hollow right now is a situation where, yeah, you might get some action often, but maybe not as often as we would expect you to get, right? I'm sure you've done Ghost Hollow without anybody ever coming to it. And then speaking of, kind of fighting over something, what are we fighting over here?
Basically, you unlock several cargo containers belonging to different companies, and different companies have different items in there.
So hopefully players will learn which containers might contain what types of materials based on the brands, right? Crusader Industries is transporting completely different types of loot than maybe say Arcorbis. What we really wanted to achieve with this is give the players complete freedom of which side to take. You don't take a contract from Crusader asking for help, or from Ninetales wanting you to help them to take something.
In future, when we have reputation-based hostility and you can make friends with these guys, they will be your cover. So I can see plenty of exciting PvP action that's going to come from this mission.
Again, really vague on this. There's so much to unpack. What are we fighting? Why am I going to these locations? Like, I love that there's dedicated PvP. I love that there's, you know, it's going to be at the last stage of Siege, because that was a really cool location. But yeah, I'm a little on the fence about this mission. Looking forward to trying it in a PTU at some point, whether it's in 320. I think that they said it was going to be a bit farther out. So, we're not getting 4.0 next, so 321, 322, whatever, right? If we were getting 4.0, they'd be shouting from the rooftops about server meshing, so let's assume we're going to have 321, and yeah, I imagine this will be a big part of that, but I think they have a lot more to say about it as the months go on. And for other updates, as always, we start out with a sneak peek, and this one is another thing that they're trying to sell. It's the Tumbril Storm, right? So they're still putting out stuff on the Tumbril Storm and kind of hinting that it's further along, and we're probably going to have it pretty soon. Maybe it's a 320, you know, it'll pop up in the PTU or something like that whenever we're playing it, but I don't really get the vehicle at the moment. I'm not huge on ground vehicles. Let me know if you guys are excited about it in the comments. I think once we get the Arena Commander updates with like the tank battle thing, it might be a bit more interesting. It was still Alien Week, so we did get a Banu Letter all written in Banu, and it was translated on the website. And it was basically the 2 weeks ago, I think, we had a sneak peek on this like Banu looking trinket, and I think they were giving them away at the Bar Citizens that they've been going to. So, you know, if there's a Bar Citizen near you, you might be able to get one of these in game. And it's essentially a magic 8-ball that tells you you can stay or reconsider or run. So if you ever get yourself in a situation you don't know what to do, you could pull this thing out and spin it, and it will tell you what to do and whether or not to run or stay. And that'll do it for today's video. So once again, thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. If you are interested in a VPN and want to check them out, feel free to check the top link in the description down below. And thanks again for watching, everybody. That'll do it for this week's Week in Review. So feel free to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'll see you guys next week.